Hello, and welcome to Recipes with Ben. I recently harvested the last of the cucumbers from my garden, and I got about 1.7 kilograms in that harvest. Because it's the end of the season, they grew in all shapes and sizes, and I wanted to turn them into some delicious bread and butter pickles. So to begin that process, I need to first chop up all the cucumbers to about quarter-inch slices. Once they were all cut up, I placed them in a large mixing bowl. In addition to the cucumbers, I also wanted to add peppers and some onions to the mix. So then I cut up 2 sweet bell peppers into long strips and added those on top of the cucumbers. Next, I thinly sliced up some onions after removing the outside layer. And the last item I added was a couple cloves with garlic that I diced up pretty finely. With all the vegetables cut up and in the bowl, I generously salted all of them, but with 4 scoops of salt, sprinkling over top of the vegetables. Adding salt at this step helps remove water that are inside the vegetables. I then placed the lid on top of them and gave them a good toss to evenly coat them all in the salt, and I allowed them to sit out at room temperature for 4 hours before proceeding to the next step. I found that for pickling, equal volumes of vinegar into water works best. So for this amount of vegetables that I have, I add about 3 cups of filtered water and 3 cups of white distilled vinegar. I then turned on the heat to medium, and once it started to simmer, I added in half a cup of sugar, adding it in portions. I stirred the solution between each addition of sugar to help it dissolve, so that it would not burn at the bottom of the pot. And then it was time to add some seasoning. So for my pickles, I added a tablespoon of black pepper and a tablespoon of turmeric to give it that traditional orangey green color that you associate with bread and butter pickles. But you could also add any spices you want. Some other suggestions that I've seen are mustard seed, red pepper flakes for some heat, or some celery seeds. So let me know down in the comments what type of seasoning you like to add to your pickles. Now looking back at the veggies that have been sitting in the salt for 4 hours, the salt has really drawn out a whole bunch of liquid. And so to add them to the pot of the vinegar, I turned off the heat and transferred the veggies over using some kind of ladle. You want to carefully add this so you don't add any water, so if you need to, put them over some kind of strainer to drain out the liquid before adding to the pot. Lucky for me, this pot was just the right size, and there's just enough liquid to cover all the vegetables. But looking back at the empty bowl, you can really see how much liquid was drawn out from the veggies. It's probably almost a half a cup of liquid. Next, I turned the heat back to medium-high and continued until it began to boil. After boiling for a minute or 2, I turned off the heat and then began transferring everything to clean mason jars. Using a ladle aid in eliminating the spillage of the liquid. In total, after transferring it to the mason jars, I got 2 large mason jars and 2 small mason jars worth of bread and butter pickles. They will need to be cooled, and then you can place them in the fridge for long-term storage or until they're ready to be eaten. I love adding these pickles to sandwiches, but especially on top of black bean burgers. So if you want to see that recipe for my black bean burger, I'll have that link down below. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and please consider subscribing so you don't miss on the next video. Smash that like button if you found any of this helpful, and I'll see you again soon.